Common Cause is the organization that everyone looks to really protect and be a watchdog for the process.
I became really, both feet into elections when I served as the clerk and recorder. I worked with an election commission then, that was the structure. So what I observed when I was clerk, that it was difficult to pin any accountability on any one member of the commission. I thought a lot about the structure when I was serving as the appointed clerk. It worked pretty well because we, as commissioners, made it work, but I always saw a better way. And so when I became elected to City Council and the 2006 election basically dissolved in front of our eyes on Election Day, I thought maybe now's the time to advance those ideas. And Common Cause was my obvious partner, and we managed to change things. The best thing for the voter is that if for some reason things were to go amiss, they would know who is accountable. And that's the point to me. And I believe it was the point for Common Cause, to create that level of accountability. And hopefully the byproduct would be trust between the voter and the clerk.
I first became involved with Colorado Common Cause, the fall of 1976. I loved the political side of things at the Capitol, and really spent several days a week down there following particular bills, just sitting in the House and Senate galleries and taking notes on what happened. I found that fascinating, but there were times when the whole process was certainly puzzling. Bills would be introduced and they weren't heard, or things would be scheduled and then the hearings never took place, or they would just use parliamentary or rule procedures to just totally change things around and manipulate what was supposed to be a very open process. I think it's very important for every bill to have a hearing, and we certainly felt very strongly about that with GAVEL. GAVEL itself stands for Give a Vote to Every Legislator. So we started talking about and listing all the different procedural issues that we felt were really being abused. Really narrowed it down to what we thought were three really critical issues in terms of violating basic process. The first was doing away with the pocket veto, the process by which a committee chair could just pull a bill off the table, put it in the pocket, and not allow any hearing or discussion of that bill. The second was the House Rules Committee. If they decided, leadership decided, that they didn't want a bill scheduled for debate, it would just disappear and never be heard from. There was never any chance for public participation. The third piece was the binding caucus. Then and now, the budget bill, the long bill, is never heard in a committee. It's always dealt with in the party caucuses. All the legislators were elected by the voters in their districts, and so every one of them was entitled to and really was obligated to have a part in that process. And if every legislator could vote, then every one of their constituents would be represented in the process. I think for me personally, as an advocate, it really did make a difference. And in Common Cause, we always say that one person can make a difference. And we had amended the state constitution and changed the way business is done at the state capitol. So for the first time, if a bill was introduced, you knew that it was going to have a hearing. And Advocates, members of the public, interested groups would have a chance to participate, and that made an enormous difference.
I first ran for the Colorado General Assembly in 1992, and I ran because of a great concern over protecting Colorado's environment. And I looked at the legislature, and most of the legislators got elected with campaign contributions that came from those resource extractors. And it was clear to me that a legislature whose campaigns were financed by these resource extractors was not going to do a good job protecting the environment. At that time, there were no limits. If somebody wanted to give a candidate $50,000 or $100,000, they could. Common Cause was one of the only organizations in the state that was taking a strong position against the misuse of money in politics. And we worked together collecting signatures to put measures on the ballot that would reduce the influence of money. Once I got to the legislature, I saw that it wasn't just the environment whose policies were slanted towards money, but it affected everything else you cared about: healthcare, education, transportation. The money side was winning every one of these battles in the Colorado General Assembly, and we needed to do something to reduce the influence of money. And Common Cause was key to all of these efforts. In 1992, there was a proposal to increase the tax on cigarettes. And I remember that the organization that was trying to oppose us was called Citizens for Responsible Government. That there weren't any citizens in Citizens for Responsible Government. There were only tobacco companies. I talk to people about the issue of money in politics all the time, and a lot of people say, well, that's one issue, but what I really care about is providing health care, or what I really care about is protecting the environment. And what I say to them is, you can't do any of those things until you deal with this issue of money in politics first, because all of the policies are going to be slanted towards the money and away from people. It's the biggest issue, and all the others depend on it. But somebody has to be the implementer. Somebody has to be the catalyst. And organizations like Common Cause perform that function in our society. It doesn't just automatically happen. That's why it's worth supporting an organization like Common Cause. You never completely win and you never completely lose, but the world's better because you engaged in the fight. That's what I think about when I think of Common Cause.